Joel Hoekstra of Whitesnake, and you're listening to BackstageAxxess.com.
Hey, this is Chris with BackstageAxxess.com. We are lucky to have with us today Whitesnake guitarist Joel Hoekstra to talk to us about his brand new project, Joel+Hoekstra's 13. Hello, Joel. Welcome to BackstageAxxess.com. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. So let's talk about this new project of yours. Now, I know you've had solo albums before, but this one's a little bit different. Can you tell us kind of how this one came about?
Yeah, I put out 3 solo albums years ago that were basically instrumental guitar albums, much like you'd expect. 2 of them were kind of like rock fusion, and one was fingerstyle acoustic. And basically, over the last 7, 8 years, the fans have gotten to know me from Night Ranger and Rock of Ages and Siberian Orchestra, and now, of course, Whitesnake. They've been asking for a solo album like a little more along the lines of what I'm known for these days, which is the melodic hard rock genre. So this is finally that album, and I was able to complete it in downtime over the last year or 2. It's got a stellar lineup of musician friends that helped me out. And basically, it sounds very much like you're listening to a band. But the reality is I did all of the writing on it, so it wasn't really fair to call it a band to those guys. And I didn't want to call it just a Joel Hoekstra solo album because there's not a ton of guitar playing in a lot of ways, of just going over the top of soloing and things like that. It just sounds like you're listening to good, solid, melodic hard rock. So I gave it a project name, which is Joel Hoekstra's 13. The album is called Dying to Live, and it will be out October 16 on Frontiers Records worldwide release.
Fantastic. Now, with this album, you said, you had creative control because you've done all the writing, the arranging, and the producing yourself. So what was that whole process like for you, and how does it compare to albums you've done in a band situation?
Well, there was certainly a heavier workload on me with this one, just in terms of working with my own schedule and everybody else's, because, I'm sure we'll get to the lineup eventually on there, but a fantastic lineup of musicians that are very in demand. So, obviously working with everybody in terms of their timeline and things like that, and now, really, just in terms of getting it all down, so much of it fell on me this time. I'm used to kind of being the guy on the Whitesnake albums or the Night Ranger albums, to be the guy who goes in and plays guitar on it and calls it a day, and that certainly is a lot easier. So this has been a great learning experience for me, and so far the feedback is just amazing. I'm just getting like rave review after rave review on it, so it's very exciting for me.
And I understand why, because the record, when I first listened to it, it was about 2 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, so I said, I'm going to put my headphones on because I need to listen to this one. Wow, I was blown away. What a great record. It had so much going on, and it's just awesome.
Oh, thanks so much. Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the musicianship on it. Obviously, it's great musicians. I tried to avoid getting too progressive or catering just to musicians. I really wanted to make this album about the fans that have wanted this album from me and make it just very much about the songs. So I didn't take any extended guitar solos or anything like that. There's obviously some fancy guitar work, but it's all kept to a minimum and very much within the context of what's right for the song. And, I think I had a great mix engineer in Chris Collier that made it sound great. I guess I would describe it as Dio-ish at its heaviest and Foreigner-ish at its lightest. So anybody that likes melodic hard rock within those boundaries is probably going to dig this album.
Right, and I love that. I love that, the Dio to the Foreigner, because, you've got, like you said, a huge host of talent that you brought in, and, of course, 2 outstanding vocalists that you brought in with Jeff Scott Soto and Russell Allen. So maybe one end of the spectrum for Russell and one end for Jeff. When you were writing, did you have the songs written before you had the lineup of musicians, or did you kind of customize these songs to the vocalists, or was that after the fact?
It was a little bit of everything. I mean, the interesting thing with this album is, as it came together, I really didn't know what it was going to be. I was like, is this a band? Is this a solo album? Is this a project? I really didn't know what it was. I just set out to do a good album of melodic hard rock stuff, and as it kind of, as it went step by step, I mean, I could walk you through it. It's a bit long-winded, but, I mean, I had 7 songs with Vinny Appice and Tony Franklin on them first. Then I wrote riff first, and my intention was to find a singer who could co-write with me on it. Just I thought, oh, I'll find like a writing partner on this, but I found Russell Allen, who is just one of the best singers in rock today, in my opinion, to sing on the front half on those 7 songs. But Russell was just too busy to do the writing. I just realized, I'm like, man, this is going to take forever with our busy schedules, the 2 of us, if we're going to try and write together. So I just went ahead and did the writing. Okay. And Russell sang on that front half, and then when I called in Jeff Scott Soto to sing backgrounds on his, he sounded so great and brought it to another level, and I realized at that point I was writing the back half. There were some songs that would really write for Jeff to sing, and I just thought, it's going to be a project album. Why not just go ahead and have 2 of the best singers in rock today on this album, and it's him bringing more to the party as far as I'm concerned. So Jeff sang on the back half. The other musicians I'm mentioning are Tony Franklin, who people would know from Blue Murder or The Firm, played amazing, tasteful bass on this whole album. So selfless. He's got so many chops, but he's laid it down and played the songs very tastefully. And that was really the way everybody's philosophy was on this. And then Derek Sherinian played keyboards on all of it for me. And again, I can't thank these guys enough, because there wasn't a lot of, now it's your turn to show off, and now it's my turn to show off. We just played these songs very tastefully. Everybody just kind of laid it down, and I think that the musicianship kind of comes across regardless of that, and that's what's exciting about it for me. It just feels like a nice, tastefully played album. Absolutely, that's a good description. It's all accessible. Like you said, it's about the songs on this record instead of just outrageous solos. Not that we don't love those, but this one's about the songs, and I think, Night Ranger fans, Whitesnake fans, TSO fans, they're all going to really love this record as well. Well, thanks so much. I think that, the struggle is for me right now just getting every bit of support and word of mouth that I can, because it's not a brand that people are necessarily familiar with. It's not like the new Queensryche album or the new Stryper album, where people go, oh, I know that band and I know what to expect from them and I'll give it a shot. I think a lot of people are just learning who I am or still have no idea who I am. So every little bit of support helps, but I would tell people and encourage people that like melodic hard rock, and if they like that description I'm giving as Dio-ish at its heaviest and Foreigner-ish at its lightest, but I think they'll dig this album. I really do. Now, let's talk about where you're coming from with the lyrics on some of it, because the lyrics are very personal, but they're also very accessible, too, because everybody can relate to them. What was your inspiration behind just a few of the lyrics on this record? Yeah, well, stopping short of calling it a concept album, it's definitely, the lyrics have a theme, and that's about overcoming the obstacles in your life to arrive where you're meant to be. Everybody's got their own internal struggles going on to become the person that they want to be, and this album is about those struggles. And so, yeah, I mean, some of it is fantasy-based and some of it is reality-based, and I almost prefer not even to tell people about too specifically, because I think it's better that people hear their own struggle within it when they listen to it, or the things that they're dealing with. So I like things left open to interpretation a bit. And I think this record will come across to the fans and anybody who gives it a listen to as a meaningful record that obviously you put a lot of your own personal touches and thoughts in the songs, but I think they can take away their own interpretations, like you said, and really get something out of some of the songs on this record. Oh, yeah, thanks so much. I mean, that obviously is my intention, and even with the name of the project itself, with Joel+Hoekstra's 13, I just thought that's a name that's open to interpretation for people. I've always liked that. I don't want to get so specific that it's like only about me. I'd like the album to be about the fans and then about everybody else as well, so.
Now, I know that you're busy with so many things going on, and with all these people that are involved in the project, it seems like an impossibility for a tour to come out of this. But what about the possibility of a few, live shows here or there?
Well, I'm certainly going to explore all options. I mean, I would like to support the album as far as I can. I think step one is getting it out there and seeing what kind of demand there is for it. I will say I'm hearing from promoters already, which is really fun considering that the album is 3 weeks away still from being released. So I'm just going to see what I can put together and what would make sense. I don't want to go out and support it with something subpar. I wouldn't want to do the album a disservice because the album has been a real labor of love for me, honestly. I put a tremendous amount of work into it, so I wouldn't want to cheapen it by taking a lesser product out on the road.
Okay. Absolutely. Now, I know everybody would love to hear it if that can come together. But you'll also be busy touring with Whitesnake as well this fall and winter. I believe that you guys are going to be heading to Japan and then maybe Europe soon.
Yeah, actually, and October 16, I fly to Japan. So yeah, we're gonna do Japan and Europe, and of course finish with the big Ireland to UK run with Def Leppard that we're very excited about. And then as far as I know, David's, he's going to fill everybody in on all the specifics, but he's really, really enthused about the current lineup right now, and I think everybody can expect a very active next year or two from Whitesnake.
Okay. So he's not going to go out with the Purple album. He's going to keep this thing going on for a while.
Well, I think that there's been talk of adding more touring. There were some places that we didn't get this year.
Okay, great.
Again, I got to be careful not to go too far into specifics and let David fill everybody in. But there was some touring that didn't get booked in 2015 that there's talk of in 2016, and possibly even returning to some places we've been. And he also has a couple of recording projects that he's really excited about as well. So I'm going to have to let David fill everybody in, but as I said, I think everybody can expect a really active next year or two from Whitesnake.
Okay. And how has your personal experience been like working with Whitesnake and David, and especially having to cover some of those classic Deep Purple tracks like Burn and songs like that?
Well, the experience has been fantastic. I mean, he's great to work for. He's rock royalty. I mean, he's like very witty. One minute he's cracking you up, and the next he's telling you a story about working with Jimmy Page or Ritchie Blackmore. And there's just not that many people that can have that kind of scope in a conversation.
Right.
To be a funny, charming, nice guy, and then kick your ass with a great story. So working with him is great, and what a great lineup to be a part of with a legend like Tommy Aldridge back there on drums, and to be in a guitar team with Red Beach is just an awesome experience. Red's a great player and a great guy. So far it's been fantastic. I think getting to make the Purple album was a great way for me to get acclimated with being a part of Whitesnake. I think it was a lot more of a creative process than people would realize. In many cases, I had to come up with alternate guitar parts, and of course we did our own things with the solos, and many of the songs were completely reimagined. So in many ways, it felt very much like making an original album. But that being said, I'm also looking forward to having some original music come out with Whitesnake as well. Absolutely.
Now, between this record and Whitesnake, do you have any time left for Trans-Siberian Orchestra, or what's your status with that right now?
Well, I'm always honored to be a part of Trans-Siberian Orchestra. The way it shakes out this year is that I have obligations with Whitesnake, with going to Japan and Europe, the tour we just spoke of. Right. So I won't be able to participate in this year's winter tour, but I certainly hope to be a part of Trans-Siberian Orchestra moving forward. I'm definitely honored to be a part of that great band.
Yes, they're absolutely a winter tradition, and I'm sure I've seen you many times with them, and we'll look forward to that again.
Oh, thanks so much.
Now, just before we go, if you could just answer a few quick questions, like, this record, you're known for guitar, but this takes you into a whole songwriting, producing kind of level that you haven't had as of yet. So musically speaking, who was your biggest influence as far as the songwriting production aspect goes?
That's a tough one. I don't know if I necessarily could cite my biggest influence. I could give you my philosophy on it. I mean, most of it was written chorus out, so I would write a good chorus first, and then kind of build the song out from there, very much like pop songwriters would. So I wanted something to hang my hat on in terms of hooks, and I just try to make sure that there's no dead space, that there's responses happening between vocal lines, that there always should be something to hold the listener's ear. There shouldn't be too much going on or it's confusing, but there should always be a focal point for the listener. And then in terms of the production, it's really pretty simple. I just tried to make sure that everybody got to play whatever they wanted to. If you kind of stay out of everybody's way, you get their personality in their playing, and people tend to play to their strengths. And I know that through experience of being that person who plays on somebody's albums, that you kind of wish you could just do what you wanted because you feel like it would come out better than when people start micromanaging the situation. So in terms of the players, that was the philosophy. And then in terms of having a sound, a cohesive sound for the album, obviously the writing was fairly diverse. So in terms of making it all sound cohesive, I think a lot of that came down to having one mix engineer, having all the same musicians on the tracks, and making sure that we were all using the same instruments and things like that. So I didn't want completely different drum sounds from song to song, or then the album could have really started to sound pretty scattered. So I basically used a Les Paul and one amp for the entire album.
Okay.
There wasn't a lot of changing of guitars and amps and things like that. I just wanted to make sure that it all had a sound, if that makes sense.
And it does. It works. It's a great album, and I hope that everybody takes an opportunity to give it a listen, and hopefully down the road check you guys out live and catch Whitesnake when they come to town as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for helping to get the word out. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, no problem. We thank you, Joel, for your time.
Now he can't believe how she